What does it mean to be a hero in a meaningless universe? Not the kind of hero who saves people or defeats evil or sacrifices themselves for a greater cause. Those heroes assume life has meaning, that actions have cosmic weight, that the universe cares about right and wrong. But what if none of that is true? What if the universe is completely indifferent? What if there is no cosmic audience judging your choices? No divine plan you're part of? No ultimate redemption waiting? Can you still be heroic? Albert Camus says yes. And he calls this figure the absurd hero. Someone who lives with full consciousness that existence is meaningless, who accepts this without flinching, and who chooses to live anyway, not in despair, not in hope, but in passionate revolt. This is the hardest kind of heroism. The kind that gets no reward, the kind that promises nothing, the kind that exists purely for its own sake. We've talked about the absurd, we've talked about the escapes people take, the physical suicide and the philosophical suicide. Now we need to talk about the alternative. The person who stays, who doesn't kill themselves physically or intellectually, who looks directly at the meaninglessness and says, I will live anyway. I will live fully, consciously, intensely, without illusions and without despair. This is the absurd hero. And Camus gives us several examples, several archetypes, to understand what this looks like in practice. Because it's not one way of being. It's a posture toward existence, a way of standing in the world when the world offers you nothing. The first and most important example is Sisyphus. We've discussed him before, but let's go deeper into why Camus sees him as the perfect absurd hero. Sisyphus was condemned by the gods to push a boulder up a mountain, watch it roll back down, and repeat this forever. No progress, no completion, no purpose, just endless repetition of a meaningless task. This is obviously a punishment. The gods intended it as torture. But Camus performs a radical reinterpretation. He says, imagine Sisyphus happy. Not happy because he's deluded. Not happy because he believes the boulder will stay at the top one day. Not happy because he thinks the gods will eventually forgive him. Happy because he has accepted his fate completely. Because he has made it his own. Because in that acceptance, he has found freedom. Here's the crucial moment. Sisyphus pushes the boulder up. It reaches the top. It rolls back down. And Sisyphus, he watches it fall. And in that pause, he is conscious. He knows exactly what his situation is. He knows the boulder will roll down again. He knows this will never end. He knows there's no meaning, no purpose, no hope. And yet he walks back down the mountain to push it again. That walk, though in that moment of full consciousness before the labor resumes, that's where Sisyphus becomes heroic. Because he could despair, he could rage against the gods, he could beg for mercy. But he doesn't. He accepts. And in accepting, he transforms his punishment into his choice. The gods may have condemned him, but he chooses to push the boulder. It's his boulder now, his mountain, his task. And no one can take that from him. Camus writes, the struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. This is the key, not the achievement, not the completion, not the reward. The struggle itself, the effort, the engagement. Sisyphus is happy, not despite his meaningless task, but because he has embraced it fully. He has stopped hoping for something else and committed entirely to what is, and in that commitment, he is free. Free from the need for external validation. Free from the gods' judgment. Free from the illusion that life must have cosmic significance to be worth living. He lives in pure present tense. Each push of the boulder is complete in itself. Each moment is sufficient. And that sufficiency, that ability to find meaning in the struggle without needing transcendent justification, that's what makes him heroic. But Sisyphus is mythological. Camus also gives us real-world examples, archetypes drawn from actual human experience. The first is Don Juan, the legendary seducer. Now, on the surface, Don Juan doesn't seem heroic at all. He's a womanizer, someone who moves from lover to lover without commitment, without depth, collecting conquests like trophies. But Camus sees something else. He sees someone who has recognized that love cannot last, that relationships end, that promises of eternal devotion are lies we tell to avoid facing him. And rather than pretending otherwise, rather than committing to one person and living in bad faith, Don Juan lives authentically. He loves fully in each moment, knowing the moment will pass. He doesn't promise forever. He doesn't build illusions. He experiences love as intense present tense passion, then moves on when it ends. He multiplies experiences rather than trying to make one experience eternal. This might sound shallow. It might sound like hedonism. But Camus is making a deeper point. Don Juan has accepted that nothing lasts. He doesn't cling. He doesn't try to stop time. He doesn't pretend that romantic love can defeat death or meaninglessness. He experiences love for what it is, temporary, intense, finite, and he does this over and over, accumulating lived moments, choosing quantity of experience over the illusion of eternal quality. He's honest about him. He refuses the lie that love conquers all. And in that honesty, in that refusal to hide behind romantic mythology, he's heroic. Not morally heroic, perhaps, but existentially heroic. He lives without illusions. The second archetype is the actor. The actor is someone who lives multiple lives, who inhabits different characters, who experiences existence from countless perspectives. But the actor knows these characters aren't real. The actor never confuses the role with reality. Every night, they step on stage and become someone else. They feel deeply, they commit fully to the character, but when the curtain falls, they remove the mask. They've lived intensely without believing in the permanence of any single identity. The actor demonstrates that you can engage completely with life while knowing it's all temporary, all constructed, all ultimately without inherent meaning. The actor plays the game with full seriousness while never forgetting it's a game. Camus sees this as a model for how to live in the absurd. We all play roles: parent, worker, friend, lover, citizen. These are masks we wear, identities we perform. Most people forget they're performing. They identify completely with their roles and suffer when the roles end or fail. But the absurd hero, like the actor, remembers. They play their parts fully, they commit emotionally, but they maintain a sliver of consciousness that observes, that knows this is all temporary, that refuses total identification. This isn't cynicism, it's lucidity. It's the ability to be both inside and outside your life at the same time, to participate fully while remaining aware that you're participating in something fundamentally absurd. The third archetype is the conqueror, though Camus is careful to distinguish this from the tyrant. The conqueror he has in mind is not someone who dominates others, but someone who engages with the world through action, through creation, through the imposition of human will on indifferent reality. The artist who creates knowing their work will eventually be forgotten. The revolutionary who fights for justice knowing that ultimate justice is impossible. The builder who constructs knowing everything they build will crumble. These are people who act without hope. They don't believe their actions will change the fundamental nature of reality. They don't think they're serving some cosmic plan. They act because action itself is meaningful. Because the struggle against indifference is what makes us human. What unites all these figures? Sisyphus, Don Juan, the actor, the conqueror, is a specific relationship to consciousness, time, and meaning. They are all fully conscious. They don't lie to themselves. They see reality as it is, meaningless, temporary, indifferent, but they don't despair. They don't escape into hope or faith. Instead, they revolt. They engage with life intensely, passionately, completely, without needing it to be anything other than what it is. They live in present tense. They don't defer happiness to an imagined future. They don't regret the past. They accumulate experiences, they feel deeply, they act decisively, all while knowing that none of it has cosmic significance. And somehow, impossibly, they find joy in this, not the joy of fulfillment or completion or salvation, the joy of engagement itself, the joy of being alive despite everything. This is what Camus means by revolt. It's not political revolution, though it can include that. It's existential revolt. It's the refusal to surrender to meaninglessness. It's the decision to say yes to life, even though life offers no justification for that. Yes, the universe doesn't care if you live or die, but you care. You choose to care. You create value through the act of valuing. You create meaning through the act of living meaningfully. Not ultimate meaning, not cosmic meaning, but human meaning. The kind that exists only because you make it exist, and that making that constant creation of meaning in the face of meaninglessness. That's revolt. That's heroism. But let's be clear about what the absurd hero is not. The absurd hero is not indifferent, like Merceau drifts through life passively, responding to stimuli without choosing, without creating, without committing. He's conscious of the absurd, but he doesn't revolt against it. He just accepts it passively. And that passivity leads to violence, to moral emptiness, to a life that's barely lived. The absurd hero, by contrast, is active, engaged, passionate. They choose, they commit, they create. They live intensely precisely because they know life is temporary and meaningless. The awareness of meaninglessness doesn't lead to withdrawal. It leads to greater engagement. The absurd hero is also not the person who has achieved some final state of enlightenment. This isn't Buddhism. This isn't about transcending desire or reaching nirvana or becoming one with the universe. The absurd hero remains fully in the struggle, fully in desire, fully in the world. They don't seek to escape suffering through detachment. They embrace suffering as part of life. They feel everything: joy, pain, love, loss, hope, despair. But they don't need these feelings to mean something beyond themselves. The feeling is enough. The experience is enough. Life is enough. Not because it's perfect or fair or meaningful, but because it's what we have. And the absurd hero is definitely not the person who has found easy answers. They haven't resolved the tension of the absurd. They live in it every day. The confrontation between their need for meaning and the world's silence never goes away. It's there every morning when they wake up. It's there in every moment of reflection. But they've learned to live with it, to even thrive in it. They've transformed the wound into a source of strength. The very thing that could destroy them, the awareness of meaninglessness, becomes the foundation of their freedom. Think about your own life. Are you an absurd hero? Are you living with full consciousness of meaninglessness while still engaging passionately? Or are you escaping? Are you telling yourself comfortable stories about purpose and destiny? Are you deferring happiness to some imagined future when things will finally make sense? Are you sleepwalking through routines, never fully present, never fully alive? The absurd hero doesn't have an easy life. In many ways, it's harder than escaping. It requires constant vigilance, constant honesty, constant recommitment to values, are not cosmically validated, but it offers something the escapes cannot: authenticity, freedom, the joy of living without lies. Camus isn't saying everyone should become exactly like Sisyphus or Don Juan or the actor. These are archetypes, not prescriptions. What he is saying is that there is a way to live that acknowledges the absurd without being destroyed by it, a way to be conscious without being, a way to see clearly without losing the ability to engage. And that way involves revolt, the daily practice of saying yes to life, the constant creation of meaning in a meaningless universe, the refusal to be defeated by indifference. That's heroism in the absurd. That's what it means to be fully human in a cosmos that offers us nothing. So here's my question for you. What would your life look like if you became an absurd hero? If you stopped waiting for meaning to arrive from outside and started creating it yourself? If you accepted that nothing you do will matter in a cosmic sense, but chose to do it anyway, with full passion, with complete commitment, would you live differently? Would you take different risks? Would you love more intensely, work more honestly, engage more fully? Because that's the challenge. That's what Camus is offering. Not consolation. Not hope, not meaning, just the possibility of living authentically in a meaningless universe. The possibility of being heroic when heroism has no audience, no reward, no ultimate justification. The possibility of pushing your boulder with full consciousness and somehow, impossibly, finding happiness in the struggle itself. Welcome to the absurd hero. Welcome to the hardest and most honest way to live. Welcome to Camus Speaks.